Hey guys, I'm here to talk about what I think the full title is, Uchu Sentai Kyurangers, also known as Kyurangers. I've been wanting to talk about it for a while. I keep sort of talking about it and then not really liking it, liking the video and then restarting. In fact, this is probably like the third time I've tried to talk about it, but I keep rambling on and it gets just lost in a sea of bullshit. So I've decided to keep it short. I'm going to try and keep it short. I'm not going to dwindle too much on unnecessary things, so let's go. If you want the short answer, I don't really think Kyurangers is really worth watching. You can if you want. I'm not going to say it's god-awful, but it's definitely not something I 100% think you need to watch in any way. It's not really worth it, in my personal opinion. But so anyway, let's get on to the longer review, or discussion. So, I think Kyurangers is really middle of the road for me because it's got a few aspects that I do and don't like. So what I dislike really about it is that we have a decently large cast, but most of them don't get any time or any episodes to themselves to develop. Sometimes characters like Hammy will get like 1 or 2 episodes where it ends up being like, oh, this thing happened to me one time, and it's like a minute, like I said for Hammy, we learned that she used to be shy, but she got over it kind of, and then also when she thought things were hopeless, this one musician gave her hope and inspired her. And that's pretty much the extent of Hammy's character in the show. The movies might go into more backstory, I don't know, but at the very least for Hammy specifically, no, not really. She barely really got anything. Also, just in case we get into major spoiler territory, spoilers, you know, whatever. They have a huge cast of characters. Like I said, they don't really develop them very well. Some characters get more developed than others and can get really developed. Like, I really like what went on with Balance and Naga later on in the series when Naga became temporarily evil, but you know, and we got a little bit of development for them as characters, but then you have characters like, you know, Spada, the Yellow Ranger, and I used to be from a large family with no food, that's why I like being a chef, you know, it's stupid stuff like that. And so that's a real drawback because personally I'm a fan of even having either the really small teams or just the normal sized teams like you would have in any other show. Lupin Ranger vs. Pato Ranger is currently airing, and it's technically exempt from this in the sense that it's 2 completely separate teams operating independently of each other but coming together for various reasons in the show. You know, each team is the own thing that's going on, so that's different. But in this case, it's literally like 12 Rangers that are all going towards the same thing. And because there is such a large cast, we can't even get the large cast in every episode. We have to do the Kyutama the chance. And, you know, let's see what 4 happen to be in this episode. So it's like not really, you know, not all the characters really even get their own chance, especially when 90% of the time Lucky's gotta be in it. Another negative that can also be a positive is Lucky's character himself. Him being Shishided, he's the face of the team, he's the main guy, he's the big guy, right? The Red Ranger. A lot of people aren't gonna like him because he's that overly lucky, optimistic, like really dumbass Red Ranger that we have occasionally. You know, we had it in Ninjas. He's also crazy OP because he's so Yosha lucky, so lucky. And personally, I don't mind Lucky, but I could definitely see this being a huge negative for tons of people. And it kind of is in some ways because he kind of just is like a magical MacGuffin that fixes things. So we're just going to ignore that for now and move on from Lucky. Another negative is the fact that they have a billion Q-Tamas but barely use them. They'll at least get used once ever, but there's some Q-Tamas like I think Pegasus-san, the Pegasus Q-Tama thing, where he gets used like one time to build for this one specific purpose in one episode and then is used in a recap episode. And that's really it. There's no other reason to that Q-Tama. Barely used. Another negative is the 6th Ranger, in my opinion. While he grew on me, I ultimately felt that he really wasn't that great of a character. And while I thought some aspects of him were nice, part of me, if I'm gonna put the 6th Ranger into a good one or a bad one, I'm personally gonna have to put him for bad for me. I did not really like him, and while he did grow on me, like I said, one of the things that made him go into the negative 6th Ranger, not very good territory, is the fact that he's one of those Rangers that pops out crazy OP. Like, I'm telling you, like, single-handedly defeats a fleet of enemies in one go single-handedly, and then maybe 4 episodes later he can barely handle just 4 dudes. It's one of those, like, they just had the nerf the shit out of him immediately because, oh yeah, we had to make a spectacle of him coming in, but now he's not allowed to be that OP, so sorry guys, go bye. Now, we're going to talk about some of the positives. I might have forgotten some negatives, but we're going to go ahead and talk about the positives from now. The biggest positive for me, and this is going to sound really stupid, but the biggest positive for me is I really like the Orion form. I think all white designs with splashes of color are sleek as fuck. Orion form from, Kyurangers is one of them. If we're looking from, like, Kamen Riders, we got Kiwami Arms, Fruits Basket, from Kamen Rider Gaim. Love that form. And also, I think Genius form from Build had a white body with all the bottles making splashes of color all over. Really big fan of that kind of design in form, and because Orion form is just like, it's the epitome of my aesthetic with a form. Of course, that's going to get big points. Another positive for me personally is Lucky. I actually really liked Lucky because he was really positive, but I liked Lucky mainly because he came from such a hopeless situation, and he's not just lucky because lol luck. I mean, he is, but he's also lucky because he so desperately believed in himself and in his own luck that he draws luck to him. That's literally what the fuck they say about it. Like, he brings luck to himself. And so I kind of just like that, even if it's sort of a magical MacGuffin of Lucky can just get lucky and find something that no one could find or no one figured out or whatever. He's Yosha Lucky, that's so lucky. And while that is a negative, and I recognize him as a negative, personally for me, it's a positive because I just like Lucky's character. Even though he is a stupid dumbass Red, I also think he is a very positive Red character, and he does want to work together and do everything. It just so happens that he's also kind of airheaded and stupid, but whatever. Another positive is that sometimes there are characters, like I mentioned, that do get development, and the development they get is pretty good, like I mentioned with Balance and Naga, and I believe, Phoenix Ranger gets, I can't remember his name right now, but the Phoenix Ranger gets a lot of chances to grow as time goes on, especially since the main villain is connected to him, being that it's his old best friend that he thought was dead. Lucky gets a lot of backstory because, of course, he's the Red Ranger. He's fucking Shishi Red. He's gonna get it, And what we did get from those characters, I actually thought was really awesome. But, it's just not frequent enough for me to say that it's definitely, good. And the last thing I'm gonna say is that I actually like that the show had an epilogue. I haven't seen every single Sentai series, but I know a lot of them don't have, an epilogue. But at least part of the final episode, I don't believe it was the full final episode, of course, but at least part of the final episode has an epilogue to it where it shows what characters are doing quite a little bit later. I'm pretty sure Champ went back to wrestling. I think Spada has a restaurant, stuff like that. Lucky and Gadu are exploring the universe. It's just, a lot of things like that, and I really like seeing, characters later. I think it's very interesting, I think it's very fun, and that's one of my favorite things about an ending. And I'm really glad that Kyurangers ended that way, even if I'm not a big fan of Kyurangers itself. So, yeah. Ultimately, that's where I am. I didn't want to do a super, super, super long analysis because I feel like nobody will watch it, and also I didn't really want to talk about Kyurangers that much because it's been a while, and also it really wasn't my favorite series, and I didn't want to just sit here harping on it the whole time. But I do want to say that I really don't think it's necessary to watch it. I don't remember if I did a video on Zoogers. If I didn't, I might try to. But really, it's middle of the road. You can watch it if you want, but ultimately I'm not the biggest fan of it. So yeah, let me know what you thought of Kyurangers in the comments below, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!